Hi everybody, good evening. My name is Piotr Jeremicz. I am the iOS developer in Ergo Technology and Services, German insurance company. Boring, but we will talk about something exciting today. Today we will talk about new feature that we could find in Swift Find 5.9. It's a macros. This is my first community presentation, so please give me an applause. That will motivating me a little bit more. Hopefully you drank a little bit of drinks, so it will be easier to consume for you. But we will start from the introduction. The Swift 5.9 introduced 5 tickets from the Swift evolution that present us a macro. Macro is a tool that helps us to create the code. And as you can see, there are 5 tickets. It's really good to go to the Swift evolution to see what was the purpose of creating this tool that will be really useful in the future. So the main definition is that macros should generate boilerplate. So we would like to develop faster and easier. It should generate the boilerplate code and perform other compile time things. So with this amazing technology, we'll go back into the history. Maybe somebody remember that this is the declaration of simple class in Objective-C. Who will remember this amazing language?
Where's synthesized?
Oh,
Best language.
yeah, beautiful language, yes. We love history, of course, but reality came with us. This is the Objective-C class, and with the time, with the Swift came to us a light and strong type language. We could make it better and revolutionize our work, of course, to do something that is really amazing, yes? Swift gave us a possibility to do the things that we couldn't do in Objective-C. Sometimes, of course, revolution go too deep. But right now we have a macros and we can go further with some macros implementation that will help us to generate code easier, faster, and of course close everything in the macros. So thanks to the macro, we can push the line of our revolution even further. But yeah, so we'll start from the beginning. So of course, every tool could be used in different ways, and the macro is one of those kind of tools that we would like to use, not always as the author expected, but to use it to help us to develop better code, to make it easier, faster in code development. So yeah, the Gandalf was right. We'll take some case that we would like to, and we will begin. I would like to introduce you my private SwiftUI networking package that is available on the GitHub. This is something that I'm working from almost 2 years. It was done by me because I had some approach in the past to creating the requests in my app, and with the time I had many different apps that I'm creating on my own purpose that had this networking layer. So of course, it was great. It was great in 2017, 2018, something like that. But I would like to find something easier, something more common for SwiftUI approach. So I took the SwiftUI approach to build the views and try to implement it in the networking layers to make it easier, to make it clear how the request looks like and how the response should look like after we'll call to the server for this response. So as you can see here, we have the type aliases that provides us the information what will be the response type and response error from the server. Of course, everything is based on the request protocol. Here you can see something that is very similar to SwiftUI view. We have a body that is an opaque type, that is a request type. So what we have right now, we know that there will be some request inside, but we will not know what kind of the type alias will be in this get request protocol inherit object at the end. What I would like to do, I would like to make it simpler. So use this amazing macro that we have and get rid of the type aliases and move with the declaration of the response type here into the modifiers that I'm using normally to construct the request. So it's amazing, but the case started from a little bit more complicated sample, and this sample is about the login request with username and password. So this request normally probably in many applications returns some token that should be saved. So here you have after authorization. Here you have after authorization modifier that took the response. We must know this type and save the token and, for example, refresh token into the store. With that implementation, as you can see right now, we have a double declaration of the response body type twice. It doesn't make any sense, especially in that amazing Swift language. Of course, I could put here some emoji, but it was simpler to use a text right now. So this is my target based on the requirements that I found in my private package. And to do it, we should to create a new Swift macro. And what I would like to show you is what was my approach to some complicated stuff that we have when we are talking about the macros and about the Swift syntax that I will tell a little bit later. I would like to show you my approach, how I did it, how I deal with it, how I work with it, and what was the end result. So, what I've done at the beginning, I've created the Swift macro template that Xcode provides us. So we can find the amazing Swift Xcode project that contains, of course, package. And we have some files. So first file, request file, is the declaration of the macro that we'll use. The sample is about the stringify. Everybody knew it probably from the WWDC. We have the main file that is mostly it's actually the test application that will use our macro to test, to work with this macro. So we should implement it, and this is the implementation part of the macro that Apple provides us as a sample. At the end, of course, developers love to test the code, and here are the tests for this macro. So it was the sample that I took to see how I should bring it to my project, because I had some projects. Yes, I didn't work on the void. I have some project that I would like to use with the macro. So right now I will show you how to add new macro to the target into existing project. So I have my package .swift2. The first thing that I should do is here, it's hard to see, but it's importing the compiler plugins support. This is the first step. To get a second step, so I would like to import a dependency that is a Swift syntax. I will tell a little bit more about Swift syntax later. The next step is go down and add macro and test targets that will be used by the Xcode to understand what we would like to add to the project. At the end, we must add the dependency into the main target, into my Swifty networking package, the networking macros implementation to get advantage from the macro that I will create. Okay. It was a boring part, hopefully not so boring, but it was too fast. But we'll go into the code, how to do it, how to implement it. So give me a second, what is going on? Too many slides, crazy. Okay, so the first thing that we must do is declare the macro. So my macro will have a name request. As you can see, the same name is for the protocol, so it doesn't matter if we double the protocol and the macro name. It will work normally. What you are doing, you are appointing the module that will contain the implementation of the macro and type that this macro will have. In that situation, it will be request macro. So the next step was to create the files that didn't exist before in the project, and go with the first base implementation. What I've done, I create, of course, empty struct, wow, and I made the networking macro plugin, assign it as a main structure. It is assigned for the compiler, for the Xcode, that he can use this macro. It can use this macro to extend my code in the future, so the developer could use this in the code. The next thing, the most important thing, is to create the tests. Because, as you can see, macro is tested literally, so we are providing the expanded this function that is really important during the development. First thing that you must create is how you would like that the code will look like after expanded, after expanded the macro, and how it will look like before expansion. So here we would like to provide to the Xcode, and at the bottom we will have the result of this macro that will produce the code. Here we have a short documentation that is really important because we have many more additions, many more variables that we can set during the testing purposes. So yeah, we'll go deeper. Macros, I think the approach to doing the macro is to follow the test-driven development idea. So we are making the test, trying to implement it. If it works, going deeper, try to implement new tests, fix the problems with the current code and make few iterations to make it perfect. And we'll try to do it with the first thing, but before I will tell about the first implementation of the macro, I would like to show you the macro rules that we have. There are 6 categories and 7 attributes that Apple provides us in the Swift syntax, in the Swift implementation. Here are the description, and this is the most actual information about it, because when you see the videos from the Xcode, there are different names for the rules. So it was changed after WWDC, and it's really hard to find which one is actual right now. Even documentation is not consistent in that situation. So we will start with extension macro because it's simple. We would like to take a protocol that is that getExampleRequest inherits in this implementation and put it as a macro at the top of the structure declaration. So it's easy and it's a good point to start. What we expect is that the macro will generate for us this kind of code. So it will be the extension that will inherit from the request protocol. Yeah, simple. And for this simple solution, we'll make a test. So this is a good point. When you will create the macro, please remember that first you should provide the code that you think it will be suited to the macro creation. So at the end, it could be different. With the time, you will get the knowledge how the macro creates the code. For the example, at the beginning, I created the one-line extension declaration. At the end, I found that macro creates 2 lines of the code. So this is something that we need to get by the experience. But test-driven development gives us this tool to make iterations between our next code implementation. So what I've added here is the extension and the definition, and I call the macro request. And we'll go to the macro declaration, and we'll add this attribute that conforms to request protocol. This is the implementation. The main part of the function is here. Each rule of the macro has its own protocol that we should implement it to our macro implementation. Here it's easy because we will create the code that is extension of some type, and we'll add the request protocol to it. So this code that you saw will generate something like that. And what is it? This is the Swift abstract syntax tree. That is the description in the Swift source code. It's a little bit complicated, but it will be the easiest one that we will see on this presentation. So yeah, Swift abstract syntax tree is a solution that provides us a possible to write the Swift source code in the Swift. So Inception will be great in that presentation, but this is the case how we would like to speak with our compiler in strong typing word, what we would like to provide as a macro expansion. When you add Swift syntax to your project, please build the documentation. You will have a great introduction to Swift syntax that will help you to understand a little bit what is the Swift syntax, how it works, and what is the main purpose of this tool, of this framework. It's really funny, but Apple creates a lot of documentations right now that are hidden in the packages, and it's nice to check if some package didn't contain that kind of introduction like Swift syntax has. But there are other tools like AST Explorer that could help you to see the structures, the tree of the Swift syntax. It's really useful, especially if you have some complicated macro that will blow your mind when you see the print inside the console later a little bit. So yeah, there will be a meme, of course. So I love Lord of the Rings. It should be this meme to this. So going down into the code, especially in the Swift syntax, it's like a Gandalf that knows that Gimli's decision was wrong. but other membership of the fellowship, of course, are happy because they will see some mines. So yeah, that's true. We'll go with this example deeper. So we have the type alias that we will move down to the modifier, like we are using in SwiftUI. Those modifiers will describe what kind of type of this GET request will be returned as a response. Amazing. When we extend the macro, we will see those 3 lines of the code, 4 lines. So we did it. We would like to do the first 2 lines. And yeah, of course, we are going back to the test. Everybody loved the test, and the tests are really important in the macro because they will help you to understand what was changed and what is the process of implementing the macro, especially if you have some strict case that you would like to do. And this is what I've added. Again, type aliases by the macro will be created under whole of the struct implementation. It will give one more additional line. This is something that I found during the development. You will find it too, but you must be patient. The test will not pass in the first time, or maybe do. It's about the luck, like with the journal implementation. So yeah, but it was the easy part. What we would like to do next, we would like to attach the member attribute and declare that we will work with the response body and response error type. That is a type alias under the hood. And it was the easiest part. Right now we will go deeper a little bit with the implementation. So we will start from something easy. If we are creating something, we should provide to the developer, to the end user, that she is doing sometimes something wrong. And in that case, I have the enum, that is the error inheritation, and provide some description for 3 common errors that we will find in my implementation. The first one is that this request macro will be only applied to the structure. The second one is that I would like to find a body that contains the declaration of the request. At the end, of course, each declaration of the request should have its own modifiers, so function callers. If those things will not appear in the code, the macro will not work. And again, we are using member macro protocol that will provide us the function. And I would like to speak about 2 methods that are really important to deal with the Swift macro. First is an S, not S, but but something that give us information about the type. So we are asked, because whole of the syntax, Swift syntax, is based on the syntax protocol that provides you some information about the syntax. It should be cast to the type that you think that you will find. And this first method, when you ask about this type, will return you this type as an optional. The second one, when you ask if the syntax type is, for example, request type, it will provide you the true or false if it's correct. It will be helpful to follow with the Swift syntax later, but we'll come back again to the code. We have this function, and we would like to use the first step that I've declared in the error enum. It's finding if we have the structure declaration at the beginning. So as you can see, there is an as method that asks the declaration if it's a structure declaration syntax type. If yes, we are going further. If no, we are throwing the error. It's really helpful because you will see this error in the Xcode normally, like any error that we have in our Swift world. And lucky to have it should describe the situation why something is not working. The macro is so strict implementation, it's so strict tool that we should communicate with the end user how it should be used. Like in that case, requests can only be applied to the structure, and that's true because, of course, get example request should be always a structure from many reasons that I have somewhere in my head. Okay, we are making a breakpoint, and we would like to see what is hidden under the struct declaration syntax. So we are running the test. Yeah, I see that you did it. So we are running the test and printing the struct declaration. So this is the beginning. very short beginning of the declaration of this simple request implementation. But in real life, it will be a little bit longer, and it's ending somewhere at the bottom of first floor, the base floor. I will show you a beginning that will work with. So I think Swift macro is the best solution if you would like to get another monitor in your company, because you need sometimes 2 monitors to do it. And yeah, we are here. The struct declaration syntax is on the top, and by the guard LED, we are checking if we are in, if this is correct syntax. If yes, we can go further. So we would like to find the variables, and one of these variables will be this body variable that contains the some request that we would like to find. So you can see the code here. We'll go deeper, and here, as a third, it's on the top. You can see that there is a body identifier for the variable declaration syntax. So it's really complicated. It's not that you are sitting and you are doing it manually. It's something that you must take care, spend a little bit of time, drink a lot of coffees, and probably buy another monitor too. So yeah, this is the implementation that helps us to find the variables that we have in the structure implementation. So we are going deeper, like in mines. Hopefully we will not find the barrel log. So this is another part of the code that helps us to find the body that have, of course, identifier text, that is body. And we are going back again to see how we are using this as and is methods. Here we are making the compact map that helps us not to skip any item that is in the array of some syntax some syntax arrays. So it's good to use the compact map with the as method to find only the variable declaration syntax that we have in the body of the structure. The next sample is how I'm trying to find specific pattern. So I'm using always first where, and then I'm using is method to find specific identifier pattern syntax that will be needed to find the body identifier at the end. So it looks complicated, but again, we can go back to our amazing tree. It's amazing, seriously. And we could find that we are somewhere here, and yeah, we are here. You know, when first time I implemented this macro, I took the pen, and try to, you know, sign where I am in this tree, because it's not so easy. It's complicated because of many things that in that kind of macro exists. So yeah, going deeper, yes, it's not easy. Our development work is never easy, always coffee ends before we will end the work. So in that case, we will drink probably the 4th coffee because we would like to find the patterns that will bring us closer to the declaration, to the methods that are modifiers and provide us the declaration of the type. So what we have here, we are looking for function call expressions that we can find here. As you can see, this is funny. Yes, function call, called expression, function call, called expression. It's like a crazy stuff that probably you are seeing only after the 2nd beers. But we could find it in the macro too. But we must deal with it. I would like to show you how macro could be complicated, because the Swift syntax is not something that we as a people use to understand quickly. It's something that, yes, it needs a concentration. We must sit down on it and find where we would like to go. And we would like to go to those 2 labeled expression list syntax that contains our example error and example body type that we would like to take and add as a code inside the struct body. So here it will be the last boring part, so don't worry, we will not have more code here. Here we have the analyze function that will find for us the end types of literal response body and literal response error type names. Of course, it's nice to provide some base implementation, yes? So if we will not find it, there should be some type that will be the default one. In my case, this is the empty. So if some response body is empty, it means that I do not care about the body. It's empty, I don't care about it. it's not for me right now. And this last implementation is going here to return, where I would like to return the declaration syntax for those two type aliases. Yeah, so yeah, we are here after 26 hours of minutes of the talk, and hopefully your test will pass. Everybody loved this icon, especially when we have continuous integration and we do not see it. My approach firstly was something like, wow, great tool, maybe it helps me to make my package better. But I found that beyond Swift macros is something more than only implement something that produces the code. Of course, you saw this first example, we can create the code that will create the list, that will create the cells, and everything will be much more better because we'll use only one developer for everything. But it's good to find good case for the macro and how to do it even better, so to be proud of this code. And this is what I found during this implementation that I'll show you. So firstly, it's good to avoid blind casting and first elements as an optional. The bad sample at the bottom is easy if you know the code, but the code that somebody else will provide to the macro could be much more different. And the funny thing was that I found that when I implemented first time the macro and I used the package in different app, it doesn't work because I didn't thought that I had so many constraints in simple request. So it's good to work with the compact map with first where methods to be sure that we are not skipping anything that we would like to find by the macro. Second thing, it works strange. Okay, the second thing that we would like to use is Swift syntax. I provide the literal Swift source implementation, so I use the string to provide the type alias response body, but the best solution, and even for me, is to create the declaration syntax that should be provided in return as a main structure. So, of course, we are in the test-driven development, we are learning on our mistakes, and we are trying to make our code better. So, with the time, in 1.0 version of Swifty networking, you will see this, not this, I swear. But it's really important when you are working with some types that should be declared strong. Next thing is that the macro is not something that people will understand by seeing the name or seeing the documentation on the GitHub. So it's nice to provide some documentation, really clear documentation, or even the snippets, even the Xcode file template that will help you to provide the information how the macro works and to shortcut the understanding of the macro. We can expand macro to see what it's doing, but as you know, for example, if we have the macros provided by the Apple, it's blind for us. Yes, we couldn't extend it. Why not? We will understand. They will provide some documentation that will help us. Last but not least, if you are using the macro, you must agree to use this macro in Xcode project. So if you have some continuous integration or continuous delivery, please remember to skip macro fingerprint during the validation process. For example, this is the code for the Xcode Cloud. We are using defaults function to say to the Xcode Cloud that we would like to skip fingerprinting. It could be done on the Fastlane 2 on any other implementation of the CI/CD 2, but it's really important. If we will not do it, it will not work in our continuous delivery process. So, to sum up, Swift Macro is a great tool. It provides us many different solutions, but the most important thing is to find good reason for it, because we can create a lot of code, but it should be useful for us, for our team, for other people that will use this macro, and it's really important to make it clear how it works. Use test-driven development approach to make it as better as we can, because, for example, I had funny situation. There was some regex sample that you are providing the type of the response body by the regex code, and it was my first implementation. What was fun, that regex doesn't care about the commented lines of the code. So I get the type that I would like to get, but the code is not working. Yes, it was commented. So please remember that test-driven development helps you and make those tests as much complicated as you can, because it will provide you better understanding how your code works. Get familiar with Swift syntax. It's really important, because then it will be easier for you to find the bugs inside this amazing tree that you saw many times before. And implement it, improve, implement, improve. Remember, macros are the tools that provide us a quicker possible to implement some boilerplate code, but we must to take care about it and to make responsible on ourselves that it should be done in proper way. So, of course, one does not simply create a useful macro, and I saw great sample on your GitHub too. So good samples are important. You can find the examples around the community, and you can find the examples in Swift syntax, if I remember correctly, in Swift syntax package on the GitHub too. Use samples, use the documentation, see what you can do and how it could make your life simpler in the team. And of course, another meme, why not? Remember that with the macro works like that sometimes it's better solution than the macro. For example, using the protocol, some abstractions, some implementation of classes. Not always macro will be the best solution. Of course, it's amazing to say that, yeah, I did a macro, not only one, but it's good to find, as I said, good reason for it. And yeah, this is my conclusion after doing this inside my SwiftUI package manager. So before the applause, please give me a star, give me a feedback how this presentation works, because I'm really curious. And of course, give a star to the package, yes, if you didn't do it during this presentation. And thank you very much for this evening. Hope you like it and you will do a great macros in the future.
I have one question. Did you try using the tool from Point 3 for testing the macros?
I heard about it. I didn't have a time on it, but I know that there are some tools that help you to test it. It's not maybe...
Because, for those who didn't try it before, it's as you mentioned, literal comparison. So even the tabs and spaces will matter.
Yeah, it's really important.
So it can get really annoying. So yeah, there are already tools in the community to ease that process out. So you will be having hard time. You can check out the one from Point 3. That's
funny thing is that sometimes the code that was produced by the macro is not something that we used to do in real life. So sometimes it's giving some space or some blank enter. Yeah, crazy thing, but of course Apple and some developers from Apple probably did it in some purpose. But it's this test-driven development fix that things that are not understandable at the beginning and maybe provide you to understand how the macro works under the hood. So yes, this is a good sample how to make it more clear and easier by implementation. If you do not have anything else, of course, check the source code. Everything is open. So if you have some ideas, use it. Try to develop your own macro and find the reason that could help your team in your work to make something better and quicker. So thank you again.